Good morning. Something you may not know about me, and might be a surprise given I've got paper notes, is I'm actually a bit of a technology geek. I'm quite good with computers, always have been. My dad worked in IT, me and him used to build computers together. I was gaming back in the 90s, before gaming was even cool. I was one of the first amongst my friends and families to get a smartphone. So it's no surprise that over the last 10 years, I've ended up earning a living working with computers. But what might be surprising is I don't love everything about computers. I don't love everything about modern technology. In fact, some of it troubles me. And my talk this morning is about something I've been reflecting on for a while now, in regards to technology and walking with God. So it's interesting that Pedro has just been talking about obeying God and the commandments, because my verse for this morning is the first of the most famous commandments in Exodus 20 verse 3, which says, "You shall have no other gods before me." And that might seem like an odd place to start for a talk regarding technology and God, but bear with me. Now this verse tells us that it is important that God is our only God, that we don't worship any other gods. It's a warning against worshipping idols. And in the Israelites' day, idols were statues carved out of wood or stone, and they varied in size from huge statues that were placed on hills and in temples, and some of them were small. You could fit them in a pocket, really small statues. And they would worship these for all sorts of reasons. You know, if they were happy about something, then they'd find an idol and praise it. If they were upset about something, they'd find an idol and ask for help. If they had health problems, then they'd find an idol and pray for healing. Worried about something, they'd find an idol and pray for it. Even if they were bored, they might fill their time by praying or worshipping an idol. And there are still religions like that in the world today, but for most of us in modern day Britain, that's not really an issue. Most of us don't come across those kinds of idols in our day-to-day lives. Most of us probably don't even know anyone who worships idols in that way. But does that mean that the risk of idolatry for us is small? Is the point of Exodus 23 simply don't worship idols? And if you've been a Christian for a number of years, you'll know, or probably heard plenty of people talk about the fact that there are other ways to be idolatrous. That the implication of this verse is very simply that if we are putting something before God in our lives, then that is an idol. We don't actually have to call something a God for us to treat it as if it is a God. My favourite definition of idolatry I heard once from an American preacher. He put it like this. He said, "An idol is often a good thing that we've turned into a God thing." And I first came to an understanding of this concept when I was a young man. Like I mentioned before, I struggled with an alcohol addiction. And I was working at a pub at the time, and a woman who I worked with, she said, "Well, I don't think Ben's a real Christian. His God is alcohol." And although she wasn't a Christian, she had hit on a spiritual truth that I hadn't understood at that time. She could tell from the way that I lived my life that I worshipped the booze before I worshipped God. I wasn't worshipping a statue, but I was still breaking the first commandment, because I was worshipping something else before God. My behaviour towards the booze was the same of the idol worshippers in the Israelites' day. If I was happy about something, I'd have a drink to celebrate. If I was upset about something, I'd have a drink to commiserate. If I had something wrong with my health, then I'd have a drink to forget about it. If I was worried about something, I'd have a drink. If I was bored, I'd have a drink. Now, of course, alcohol itself is not an idol. You can enjoy alcohol in your life quite healthily. Many would say that it's a good thing. It tastes nice, it helps you relax, etc. But for me, at that time in my life, it was a good thing that had been turned into a God thing. And life is filled with these good things that we can turn into God things. The temptation is different for each of us. Different people are tempted by different things. What tempts one person won't tempt another person at all. And some of these things are really obvious. There's booze, sex, cars, shopping. Some are a little less obvious, things like being comfortable, gaining power, gossiping, and so on. But many of these things have been tempting people for a long time, and we've probably all heard sermons on these things before. But I think there's a new kid on the block, something that 20 years ago didn't even exist, but is so entrenched in everyone's daily lives that it is a temptation for all of us to some extent. Now, just as some of the statues in the Israelites' day were small enough to carry in a pocket, I think we're all in danger of carrying a little God around in our pockets. And it looks like this. This device can easily be described as a good thing. It's got all sorts of genuinely useful functionality. It's got calendars on it, it's got music, banking, shopping, entertainment, even Bibles. You name it, and like the old Apple ads used to say, there's an app for that. There's more good stuff on these things than I could possibly list. And it's crazy how quickly that's happened. Like, I can remember not that long ago when all a mobile phone did was make phone calls, send text messages, and play a game called Snake. So they're good things, right? But I think they can very easily be God things. For starters, they can make other idols more easily accessible. You can pursue your shopping addiction. You can chase sexual immorality. You can order late night booze, all sorts of things. The list goes on and on. But there's more to it than that. They also steal our time. The companies that make these things and the apps that we install on them spend billions of pounds collectively on making them as addictive as possible. They are obsessed with getting and holding our attention. And the more time we spend on there, the less time we have to spend with God. I've been wrestling with this for a while, and a few years ago, I gave up my smartphone and got a dumb phone. And it was eye-opening. I'd got rid of this. I was looking up from my screen around at the world, and it was eye-opening seeing how much other people were looking at their phones. Because as with many of you, I'm old enough to remember life without them. And it was striking to me just how much less people interact and just how many people simply walk around like this. So, like the woman who pointed out that my attitude towards alcohol was idolatry, I couldn't help but think that the smartphone usage we see today can also be a form of idolatry. It's very easy to treat these devices the same as an idol worshipper treated idols in the Israelites' day. If you're happy about something, pull out your phone, shout about it on social media. If you're upset about something, pull out your phone, complain about it on social media. If you have health problems, pull out the phone, Google it. If you're worried about something, pull out the phone, put it on social media. If you're bored, pull out your phone, go on TikTok, Instagram, play a game, whatever you're into, for instant entertainment. And of course, there is nothing wrong with doing any of those things per se. The problem is if we're consistently doing them instead of turning to Jesus. Because of course what we should be doing, if we're happy about something, we should give thanks to Jesus. If we're upset about something, we should give thanks to Jesus first. If we have health problems, we should pray to Jesus first. If we're worried about something, we should pray to Jesus first. If we're bored, then we should spend time with Jesus first. While preparing this, I was reminded of my grandma. She's a lovely old lady, and she was really good at praying. If you had a problem, then my grandma was one of those people you'd want to have praying for you. And do you know why that was? I am fairly confident a big part of it was because when she got bored, she would talk to Jesus. And I wonder how much better my life would be, how much closer to God I would be, if all the hours I had spent looking at this thing were hours I'd spent in prayer instead. It's interesting that Pedro has been talking about being obedient and getting to know God and spending time with him, and I wonder if maybe one of the things we need to do is review how much time we spend with a smartphone and how much time we spend with God. Because I think the enemy has played a bit of a blinder recently, because he's taken away our boredom. Never before in the history of mankind has entertainment and distraction been so readily available. We're all at risk of not praying enough, not spending enough time with God, simply because there is literally always something else we can do. We're at risk of being too busy for God because we're being distracted by the little God in our pocket. These are good things, but they can become God things. And you may not be affected by this at all, in which case, great. Please pray for me, because I know I struggle with it, and I'm sure I'm not alone. And because I'm still wrestling with this, I don't have all the answers. As I said, I tried giving mine up for a while, but that didn't work in the long run. It's very difficult to live in the modern world without one. So my current solution is an app that you can use to restrict your usage of other apps. An app to control apps. It's a weird one. I think Apple were right. There is an app for everything. But like all apps, it can be turned off, so it doesn't always restrict me as much as I would like. So ultimately, I think the best thing to do is to put the phone down and pray about it. So to finish, I'd like us to do something slightly practical. You check that. That's it. Thank you. So I thought if we could all take out our smartphones and have a look at our weekly usage figures. If you don't know how to do that, hopefully these instructions will help. I don't know if they'll work for everyone. I don't have access to an Apple device, so I haven't been able to actually test if this is any good. And Android phones, well, they're all quite different. But if you can't do it, you can't do it. It doesn't matter. But take it out, have a look. And there's no way to put a hard and fast rule on how much time is too much. My daily usage is somewhere between 1 and 2 hours. I feel that that's still too much, but for you that might be great. Like many things in the Christian walk, it's a personal thing between you and God. So I thought we could spend a minute or two looking at that and just ask God, what does he think? What does he think about that figure on there? What does he think about the time we spent on there? And would you like us to change it? So I'll give us a minute or two to reflect on that, and then I'll close in prayer. Lord Jesus, thank you that you want a relationship with us. Thank you for the price you paid for that relationship. I ask that you forgive us if we have not been prioritizing our relationship with you. And as we reflect on the first commandment and our smartphone usage this morning, I pray that you would speak to each of us about our phone usage, about our technology usage in general, and help us to know whether we have a problem we need to address. I ask that you give all of us the strength to put you ahead of everything else. Help us to turn to you when things are bad, to celebrate with you when they are good, to wait on you when we have a decision to make, to rest in you when we are sick, and to talk to you when we are bored. Help us not to turn good things into God things, and to keep you in your rightful place as the first, most important thing. in our lives.